Young people always get a bad rap. If you ask baby boomers and Gen Xers, Gen Ys and Zs are whiny, entitled, broke kids who are only good at splurging on everything pricey and pretentious.
I'll have the avocado toast, but instead of the avocado part, I want fresh sea air, and instead of the toast, I'll have a single grain of rice.
Never mind that baby boomers are also known as the self-centered me generation, who raised Gen Xers the rebel slackers. Even the Gen Ys are picking on young people. Tim Gurner is a 30-something Australian property mogul. He thinks young people can't afford homes because they won't cut back on unnecessary spending.
When I was trying to buy my first home, I wasn't buying smashed avocados for 19 bucks and 4 coffees at $4 each.
So you reckon that's real, that people actually, young people, actually end up just spending their money and then whinge about the fact they can't get into the property market?
Oh, there's no question it's real.
Basically, people have been having a blast telling the young ones that we struggle because it's our own fault. And then Hazana Research Institute had to ruin everything. So, according to their latest study, young Malaysians are having a hard time making the transition from school to work. And by young Malaysians, we mean those aged between 15 and 29 years, who are either working part-time jobs to support their families or striking out on their own. But they're not struggling because the jobs are not atas enough for them. It is because there are very few opportunities. These guys are actually forced to take on jobs for which they are overqualified for and are not even related to their level of field of education. These orange sections you see, they indicate that workers are actually overeducated for the job, especially for unskilled and low-skilled jobs. In fact, according to the study, young people would actually take on low-skilled migrant jobs. It's just that the pay here is too low, not because they are dirty, difficult, and dangerous. Why else would young Malaysians go to Australia to pick apples? Nor are young job seekers struggling because they demand unrealistic salaries. According to KRI's findings, many are actually working in jobs that pay them below their reservation wage, meaning the lowest salary they are willing to accept. And that is as little as $1,550 a month. Bachelor degree holders are only expecting an average of $1,900. Does this sound unrealistic to you? Yet, not a day goes by in which you don't hear about how young people these days are lazy and spoiled, and how...
When I was your age, I lived on one bowl of stew a day.
The fact is, most young people are not spoiled. We really don't have it easy. According to Fast Company, we are actually more careful spenders, more independent, and are not as in love with luxury brands as the previous generations are. Most of us are just struggling because we were unfortunate enough to grow up in a post-recession world. Thanks to the world's arrested development, young people all over the world have to contend with higher education fees, more expensive rentals and homes, and a generational wage gap. Typically, you'd think that each generation would have earned more than your parents did at the same age. But in the States, Fed data shows that millennials make, on average, 20% less than boomers did at the same age. Meanwhile, in the UK, the Resolution Foundation found that under 35s earn £8,000 less in their 20s than Generation X workers. Millennials will have also spent £25,000 more on rent by the time they reach 30. Over here, fresh graduates were making about ringgit in 1980. If you take into account the compounding rate of inflation, starting salary should have gone up past 3,000 ringgit. However, KRI stats show that employers are offering new bachelor's degree holders between 1,703 ringgit and 2,682 ringgit. Well, clearly, these issues are global issues. The question is, why are wages falling or stagnating when we are seeing economic growth? Steve Denning is a senior contributor to Forbes. He explains that in the 1980s onwards, public companies began embracing the idea that the sole purpose of a corporation is to maximize shareholder value. This means that workers are no longer valued as contributors of gains and creators of future growth. They came to be seen as expendable commodities. Instead, he says corporate raiders who had played no role in creating that wealth extracted much of the gains which they then used to conduct more raids. And holding workers' salaries as low as possible is addictive because it means securing short-term quarterly profits, executive bonuses, and rising share prices. And that is why, as DM Analytics Chief Economist Dr. Muhammad Abdul Khalid points out, so little of the company's profits go to their workforce.
In Malaysia, for every $1 that we generate, bulk of it goes to corporates operating a surplus. Very little goes to workers.
And now this shareholder value thinking is entrenched. So, really, please stop hating on young people. It's not our fault that we are in this predicament. We're not demanding lucrative jobs or trying to kill industries. We're just broke. And something's gotta change. We need a massive paradigm shift because the consequences of not changing is not just the shrinking salaries. Sooner or later, it will lead to economic decline, and giving up avocados is not going to fix that. Just saying.